In this video, I'm going to show you how you can start securing your home with a CCTV system. I'm going to be showing you an NVR, a network video recorder, 4 IP cameras, and also the pros and cons of this system. Annke sent over this 4 IP camera system with a network video recorder and an HD disc. Step number 1, plan out the location of your cameras. Look at the dead spots. So try to find out any locations where cameras are not catching and try to protect all your vulnerable entry points, so windows and doors. These cameras in particular are rated for being outside also, so they're IP67. We've actually decided to install all of them outside to get full coverage of the house. Also, you're going to need to consider local laws to find out how much you can actually record in case that cameras are pointing to like public roads or other people's houses. Second thing you need to plan is where you're going to put your NVR. This needs to be connected up to your network. You either need it very close to your home router, which would have an extra space, or if you've kitted out your home with Ethernet all around the house, then you just find any spot you want to put it in. So once you found the location of the NVR, you're going to need to pull the cables from the NVR to the camera location. This is obviously going to be the most difficult part of this whole installation, and this is obviously going to be different for each home, but you're going to have to plan out the route. I would suggest planning out the route beforehand. In the box we were provided with Ethernet cables already and they were at the right length, but you might need to customize and pull your own. Each camera will need only one cable. This is because power over Ethernet, which brings data and power in one cable. Now that you've done all of this planning, it's time to think about future expandability of the system. So we went with a 4 camera option, but there are up to 8 channels with this NVR. So if you're thinking of installing 10 cameras, for example, this NVR is not going to be for you. Now the installation part. So you can get this kit with a hard drive or not. The simplest option is to get it from Annke, but it's going to be the pricier option. You can buy your own hard drive, but you need to do a little bit of research in terms of what drives are suitable for CCTV and 24-hour recording, for example. And you probably can get a bigger capacity with the same money that you would get it from Annke, so just consider that factor. But anyway, regardless of where you get your HD disc from, it needs to be 3.5 inch and you're going to need to plug it in yourself. So there's going to be 4 screws at the bottom that you're going to need to do to keep it in place, and you're going to have then 2 cables to connect it into the motherboard, like you can see over here. Once you've got that all up and running, put the case back on. And at this stage, we can connect it up to power. And if you want to use a monitor, you can use HDMI, for example, or you could go and try to configure it over the IP address. So what we did is we plugged it into a TV via HDMI and we used the included mouse and connected that via USB. So now that's up and running, you can actually go through the configuration steps on screen. And this will take you around 10-15 minutes because the way we did it, we were using this little mouse and we're actually punching passwords and putting things like security questions and answering all those stuff. Imagine, right, that's quite a little bit tedious to do all of that with a mouse. So if you do have a keyboard, if you can connect it up, give that a go, that will make this setup a lot easier. You can also download the app, it will make it super easy to configure things, and you can do that via a QR code that will appear on the screen during the installation process. Now at this stage, I would really recommend you connecting up the cameras to the system before you actually put them on the wall. This will enable you to first of all test that if the cameras actually work or not and if they're not damaged out of the box. And then you can actually pair them up. If you want to, you can also rename them, but I don't really do that at this stage because then if not, you need to know which one is which and label it and put it in the right place. But anyway, what I would do is just connect it up simply and just test that they're working. You can also configure things like the views, so you can have like 1 camera view, 2 camera view, 4 camera views, depending on how many cameras you've got. So click that and set that up. It's not going to automatically fill up the screen for you. So that got us a bit confused because we were wondering why some of the cameras were not coming online and we unplugged and replugging. So we lost around 10-15 minutes around that. But we just actually figured out that the view that we were looking at on the screen wasn't actually fully configured properly. So you need to do that piece when you connect the cameras up.
Right, so you go to configuration, general, you go into resolution, and we change that over to 1080p in it, and then press apply, and then it refresh, bang, now we got it. And then do you want to keep it? Yeah, okay.
Then later on, you can do all things like motion detection and recording. I will do that once you have the whole system set up. The camera installation itself is going to be straightforward. The difficult part is going to be actually putting the cable to the camera like we discussed earlier. The only thing you're going to need to do here is use your drill template, and it's a sticker, and just put it to the wall. That will help you to know where you need to put your holes for the fixings. The fixings are included. You're going to need to unclip the camera, so remove the base out of it. That's going to allow the actual Ethernet cable to be fished in. Put the mount on the wall first, and then you can sort of screw the camera on it. And here you might need someone else, or you might need the app to get the right positioning of where you want it to look. But if you follow my advice and planned accurately at the beginning, this should be quite a straightforward and easy process. And then just replicate the same thing for all of your cameras and your system is done. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of this system and who is this actually meant for. The first pro I can see of this system that this is actually priced competitively. We can get the system 4 IP cameras and an NVR. We can get it for around £250, and I guess thanks to the pound weakening, $250 at this point, so we could say they're on parity. So it's still really great value if you think about it. You get 4 IP cameras and an NVR, and you throw in a disc. You can buy a small disc if you only have a few cameras, or you can buy a big disc if you're running 4+ cameras. I would go with 4 terabyte or 6 terabyte at least. It does use POE. POE means that you're gonna run only one cable, so that saves time in terms of your installation. And it has the POE switch built in. So you have the 8 ports at the back of the NVR. So you don't need a managed POE switch, which would cost at least £200 to £300. You can still integrate these easily with third-party tools like ONVI and RSTP. And ultimately this works without the internet, right? So if you're looking at an installation system like Nest, they use the cloud, Ring use the cloud, but here it doesn't. It's all locally recorded, so all of your footage is on that box. But actually saying that does introduce a con. Let's move to the cons now. The main con that I can see is that it has one single disk redundancy. So it doesn't offer you any type of RAID. So what does RAID mean? Simple terms, if that disk breaks, you've lost all of your footage. There isn't a second disk that the data is being copied to. This type of solution, you will get it with a NAS. But if you do already have a NAS, I would probably recommend skipping the NVR itself, just purchasing the cameras. The user interface is a bit dated and the installation process is a bit tedious. And especially if you're doing it over web or HDMI, I think it's a lot better over the app. The app looks more modern. So I can understand why Annke are investing more on the app rather than the web, but still, it does look a bit dated. So hopefully you enjoyed this highlight. And if you want to watch the next automation video over here, you can click over here. I'll see you in the next one.